Hello, my name is Kevin Miles, and I'm going to tell you a little story about a project I'm working on, and it's called the Chicken Sandwich Brief. While I do that, I'm just going to sit here and enjoy my lunch. I'm going to also review this Chick Fil A sandwich while I'm at it. This is my Chick Fil A mukbang. How about that? Kanye has a point about the lemonade. It's quite delicious. The chicken sandwich brief is a topic that is going to be a subject of a major motion picture. And it's really about a legal case that I had against an insurance company who had been a former client of mine called US Risk and Nebo Risk Solutions. Nebo is actually a subsidiary of US Risk, owned by a guy named Randall Goss out of Dallas, Texas. So, I had a deal with them. They didn't keep their deal. They breached the contract. I wound up taking them to court. We had a legal case in Fulton County, Georgia, and the litigation's been going on for about almost 8 years. But what's interesting about it, as I enjoy this, let's just have a bite. Boy, that Chick-fil-A does a great job with that sandwich, don't they? That's good. Now, I got the spicy chicken sandwich. To be honest with you, I got one of both. Because I find that, I don't know, that sandwich just isn't big enough, I understand the one at Popeyes is much bigger. Anyway, what's interesting about the story is, before I went into that case, I called a professional psychic who I've been knowing for years. He's out in California, in Hollywood, in that area. Anyway, she tells me there's 2 people I don't want on the jury. And one of them, I picked them both out, actually. Before they see the jury, they have what they call the voir dire process. And there may be, I don't know how many, I didn't really count them. It seemed like 100 people in there. The courtroom was packed. But right there in the front row was the guy who the psychic described. And she said, you do not want to let that guy on the jury. I picked him out. I tell one of my lawyers, we can't let that guy on the jury. But he tells a story. He says, well, there was a case down on Boulevard in Atlanta, Georgia. That means it was black. It was a drug dealer. It was a drug case. It was down on Boulevard. At that time, the only people anywhere near that neighborhood were black. I'm sure except customers that would drive in there and get whatever they needed and get on, So he tells a story of how he was the jury foreman on this case. And they wind up having to let this guy go because they didn't have enough evidence. So, he's like auditioning for a part on the jury. He really wanted to get on that jury, which is weird. Because the guy who we called Orton, he presented himself. My lawyer has been calling him Orton. But when I found him on LinkedIn, he had another name, Woody. He's one of the top marketing people. Woody something or other. I don't even try to keep this in my brain, because it just irritates me to think about it. But the truth of the matter is, this guy Woody winds up getting on the jury, becomes the jury foreman, and 86 is the punitive damages. We prove fraud because this company is lying left and right. They got their executives lying. They lied during a year worth of litigation. And that's why we had to up the charges to fraud. And the jury, the Fulton County jury, agreed with us. But because of this Chick-fil-A juror who's basically using Chick-fil-A's brand, I mean, he's talking about how he worked on the campaign with the cow and the chicken, and he's the man, in Chick Fil A, because people like advertising is something. The reason why branding works is because all of those impressions, if you watch commercials, you see billboards, I mean, it has an impact. It makes you want to eat the food, and of course, the food is delicious. And the service is great. But the question is, what's going on with Chick Fil A? Why does controversy follow them wherever they go? What are their real values? What's really on the menu at Chick Fil A? That's the question. Because bottom line is, this Chick Fil A juror, is so arrogant because he has no idea that he's being watched the entire trial. While he's nodding as if he's with us, because we pretty much clobber the other side, because the truth is like a lion. If you let the truth go, it'll defend itself. You don't have to defend it, And we just went in there and told the truth. We had facts, we had documents, And the jury agreed with us. But because of this Chick Fil A juror who gets himself elected jury foreman, he's arguing the whole time according to another juror who tells all this to my lawyer. I mean, he's kind of pissed. He approaches my lawyer at the elevator after the trial. He's like, it was all the juror, the Chick Fil A juror, He's the one. Oh, this isn't really fraud. Mind you, I'm 100% black-owned business. I'm a small company, and the contract was related to workman's comp. I did everything I was supposed to do. We were saving the city a bunch of money, and all I was trying to do was collect on, the work that I did. I worked for 3 years to get that contract, and, the company they just wanted to take advantage. But for some reason, all of these, the guy, the insurance guy, the guy who owns the insurance company, the person who I believe helped tamper with this jury trial, which is a guy named Tex McIVer, who's now actually in prison for murdering his wife. He murders his wife and blames it on Black Lives Matter. But the thing is, all of this stuff is tied to this fraternity called SAE, which became famous for a viral video at the University of Oklahoma, because these kids were singing, we can hang them from a tree, but they can't sign me with me. There will never be a nigger at SAE. So there's a lot of racial stuff that's happening, which, to be honest with you, I'm represented by the largest law firm in the world. They're from the same place. I mean, they all went to UGA. They're just not going to go after one of their own, not aggressively. The Chick Fil A juror, when I suggested to my attorney, just check the record, make sure he was actually supposed to be on the jury. Oh, okay, I'll do that. But of course he didn't. He just wouldn't do it. And then he finally tells me, well, I think the guy must be a Christian, because he's not just an employee of Chick Fil A. He's so close. He was a pallbearer at Truett Cathy's funeral. That was the founder of Chick Fil A. He spoke at his funeral. He's one of the top marketing people there. And believe me, he used all of that in that courtroom to get those other jurors to go along with him. He really was leveraging their brand. And it really raises the question, when someone's an officer of your company, I used to be in the securities business. I was an investment banker. You have a duty to supervise officers of your company in that business. I don't know how Chick Fil A runs their operation, but the question is, did you tell your vice president of marketing not to use the brand to commit fraud and to tamper with juries? Let me tell you how arrogant they were. When the verdict comes back, he argues against punitive damages, and he comes up with all these numbers. And according to another juror, he was the one with the pen. Oh, we're going to take good care of Mr. Miles. He got screwed, but this isn't really fraud. Never mind the fact that they lied during the whole thing. And of course it was fraud. And so the jurors were like, well, the fraud has to stick. But they allowed this guy to wrongfully influence them away from punitive damages. He's so arrogant that when he writes the numbers down, he decides to tack on 86 cents. Isn't that interesting? Why 86 cents? But if you look it up in Webster's dictionary, to 86 something means to cancel it. For whatever reason, the judge decides she's not going to believe the 86 cents on. I guess she thought that might be too obvious, which really raises the question, who gives the judge the right to reduce my award? The jury awarded me whatever the number was and 86 cents. But she decides to leave it off. When she writes the judgment up, she leaves off the 86 cents. That's very interesting. So, anyway, back to this lovely sandwich. They do a really good job with these chicken sandwiches. And I did a review of Kanye's song that he released last week from Jesus is King, great album, of the song called Closed on Sunday. And I made the point that it's cool that you're claiming all these values, these Christian values, and you're closed on Sunday, but you can't hate on other people the other 6 days of the week. What's that doing? We're not trying to demonize anybody. This is really just about telling the truth. Why is Chic Fil A allowing their marketing executives to go into court, argue against black-owned businesses? It's like a theme. And why do all the roads lead back to SAE? Why is the chairman of the Chick Fil A Bowl, why does he tend to come from SAE? Why does every time that SAE has to have an event, Chick Fil A has to try? There's a relationship between Chick Fil A, SAE, okay, and this fraudster from Texas. And as this story goes public, if you want to know more about this, go to thechickensandwichbrief.com. Check out the website. Or you can wait for the movie, whatever you want to do. We're inviting producers who are interested in participating in this project. Get in touch with us. Just go to Chick-fil-A. Not Chick-fil-A. Go to chickensandwichbrief.com. And the Chicken Sandwich Brief is a paper that I wrote. Had 27 points in it, which were all of these anomalies and all these relationships. Like the fact that they all go to DeKalb County Republicans. Tex McIVer, who's now in jail for murdering his wife. But at the time I wrote the Chicken Sandwich Brief, it only surfaced one person. And it was like, this guy's on a nominating committee for judges. He can make you a judge. He had 2 governors who were his personal clients. He had power. He was the man of the year, and he won one of the highest awards from SAE in 2013. And he's also from Texas. And he also worked in labor law. Workman's comp is inside labor law. So there's all this metadata that's telling a story. And for some reason, this Chick-fil-A guy winds up getting himself on this jury. And that's what needs to be looked into, And I'm sure, when the district attorney sees this information, they're going to want to look into it. And last thing I want to say, as I enjoy this chicken sandwich, is that during this whole 8-year process, I found out just how present God is when you need Him. When you focus that little still voice that's inside. And as the Bible says, I stand at the door and knock. Every human being has that in them. There's a saying, the small self thinks, the divine self knows. Knowing is different from thinking. So I don't know if you've ever gone through anything like what I've gone through, or somebody who's had a hard time. Don't lose hope, take courage. Go inside. Just be still. The Bible gives you the whole recipe. Be still and know. Not be still and think. Be still and know that I am God. And God sees everything. Some people, they're up to shenanigans and they think it's funny. They think it's cute. That's why you're gonna write 86 cents. I 86 his deal. You know, they think that's funny, but what they don't know is God sees everything. And you're not gonna forget. So thank you for your time. And we're in a time of truth. All the things that are not true are falling away. But it's up to all of us to stand up and say, when we see something wrong, we need to just have the courage to say, this is wrong. Like I said, I'm represented by the largest law firm in the world. And it's been very frustrating because I've been trying to drag them along. Just look for the truth. Follow the truth where it goes. They're not interested in that, okay? They're just not interested in that. But we as Americans, we still have what they call free speech. This is my honest opinion. It's based on a hell of a lot of research, which you'll see if you go to the chicken sandwich brief. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. What I'm saying is this is my opinion. This is what I believe, because I believe fat meat is greasy. I don't think that, one of my attorneys said, I don't think that guy would do that. He seems like a Christian. Well, he's forgetting one thing. Even in the Bible, it says all men sin and fall short of the grace of God. Christians can sin too. And they can break the law too. And they do. And if you're a lawyer, it's not your job to look the other way when there's clear evidence that something's going on. Circumstantial evidence is still evidence. If there's a mountain of circumstantial evidence, especially in the standard called the preponderance of the evidence. In civil cases, it's about the preponderance of the evidence. Is it more likely than not to have occurred? There's no question in my mind that some shenanigans went on, because what I had that most people don't have is I had Nancy, the psychic, who allowed me to be able to pick this guy out before the trial even started. You may believe in coincidences, but you have to ask yourself the question, how did this guy pick out this person out of 100 people? How did he become the jury foreman? Well, what about that cock and bull story he told about the case down on Boulevard and how they let the drug dealer go? If you were trying to get on a jury, could you have told a better story to show that somehow you're fair towards black people? And to be honest with you, that's what we were concerned with. I mean, I'm a businessman, but I'm still black. This is still America, and there's a lot of racial biases. I mean, slavery was over 154 years ago. That's not that long. We're in a system that wants you to think that was a long time ago. But how old is the oldest person you know? If you know someone who's 100 years old, that means they probably could have known someone who was a slave. Does that seem like long ago to you? So, we're standing up for truth. I'm telling my story, and I love the line in Kanye's song, Closed on Sunday. Back up off my family. Back up off my family, man. It's not okay to cheat people. And while, so we won. I actually won. I won an award. This guy owes me over like $1.4 million. This Texan, Randall Goss, from U.S. Risk, owes me $1.4 million. But he's trying to run and hide through bankruptcy court. And the trustee in the case, somehow hasn't taken one deposition, hasn't subpoenaed one document, and he reverses himself. At first, he's going to sue this guy for fraud in the bankruptcy court. So this would be the second time somebody said what he's doing is fraudulent. But for some reason, this guy is in the litigation management business. He has a company in Dallas, Texas. At the time I was going through this trial, he had over 70 people's photographs on his website of employees, not a single African American. in Dallas, Texas, a city with a lot of black people in it. So, there's just all these racial tones to it. But, I'm just not willing to sit by. You're not going to come to Atlanta, Georgia, the home of Martin Luther King Jr., my Morehouse brother. Come up with all these shenanigans around this racial stuff. Have this guy who's now a convicted murderer, Tex McIVer of SAE, manipulating things in court. You're not just going to do that and it's not going to get outed. You need to pick another city. You need to pick another group of people that pick on. Because I'm here to say I'm not okay with that. I'm just going to tell the story and I'm going to make a movie out of it. And I hope everybody watches it. Because the time for, we need our courts to be fair. Because one day you're going to need that court. Someone you love is going to need that court. You do not want this crowd in running these courts. They're crooked, in my opinion. And I think there's a ton of circumstantial evidence that shows that. And we're going to tell that story in the movie. I don't care if my lawyers understand. I don't care if they get it or not. If they're from the same culture and they have the same biases and they're not willing to look at the truth, that's their business. They can tell their story. I'm not going to tell mine. And that's just the way it's going to be. Just because you are spiritual, just because you love God, just because you see that all of these people I'm talking about, let's not get it confused. They're all divine. Just as divine as me or you or anyone you know. We're all divine beings. But that doesn't mean everyone is aware of that. Some people are just not aware. They don't see themselves as divine and they don't see others as divine. So that's why they're treating people the way they're treating. That's why they think they can lie and cheat and play games. You 86 to my case? I don't think so. You may have 86 my punitive damages temporarily. But the fact that you were arrogant enough to do that, you didn't think God was watching, did you? While they're hiding behind all these Christian values over at Chic Fil A, but you got your executives out here pimping your brand, telling stories, and for what? Because you're mad because you lost the Civil War? Is that the situation? Get over it. So, anyway, closed on Sunday, right? Okay. Kanye, we appreciate you making that song. I consider that like a theme song to what I'm doing because the lyrics talk about walking the road alone. I know what that's like, And we're not disrespecting this brand, their food, the people that work there, except the ones like this crooked juror, the Chic Fil A juror, right? We are calling him out. And let him defend himself. Let him explain why he came up with 86 cents. And let the judge explain why she left it off the final judgment. Oh, it's just a rounding error. Well, who gives you the right to do that? If the jury awarded me that 86 cents, who are you to take it off? So, anyway, chickensandwichbrief.com. Have yourself a sandwich and come and visit us, all right? Take care. Bye.